I got sterilized against my husband's wishes after he said I wouldn't be a woman anymore. My husband Jake and I have 2 kids, and I've been on birth control for 8 years straight, not by choice. This stuff makes me absolutely miserable. I get horrible headaches, mood swings, and cramps so bad I can barely get out of bed some days. I kept asking Jake if we could look into other options, like maybe he could get a vasectomy, or I could get my tubes tied. We're done having kids anyway. But every time I brought it up, he'd change the subject or say we'd talk about it later. Last week, I finally decided we needed to have a real conversation about this. I dropped the kids off at school and picked up coffee from our usual place, hoping it might make the discussion go smoother. When I got home, Jake was sitting at the kitchen counter scrolling through TikTok. I set his coffee down and asked if we could talk. He sighed and rolled his eyes, but put his phone away. I started simple. Do you want more kids? He said no immediately and told me a 3rd child was completely off the table. Perfect. We agreed on that. Then I asked if he had any fears about medical procedures or surgeries. He said no, so I figured this would be easy. That's when I asked about me getting my tubes tied. His whole attitude changed. He got this serious look and said he'd never allow that to happen. I was confused. Why not? You just said you don't want more kids and you're not scared of surgery. That's when he said something that made my blood run cold. You wouldn't be a woman anymore if you got any part of your reproductive organs removed. That's what makes you a woman, and I refuse to let you go down that path. I stared at him for a second, thinking maybe I misheard. What about you getting a vasectomy then? He shook his head. That's basically the same thing for men. I won't let anyone take away my manhood. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, what's your solution? I stay on birth control forever while it makes me sick every single day? Jake looked me straight in the face and said, "It's worked so well for you already. Why change things up?" That's when I realized he genuinely didn't care that the birth control was destroying my health. As long as it was convenient for him, my suffering didn't matter. I grabbed my coffee and went to sit on the porch, trying to process what just happened. Jake went back to his phone like we'd just discussed what to have for dinner. 2 weeks later, I scheduled the appointment myself. I used money from my personal savings account and told Jake I was getting a routine checkup. The procedure went perfectly. When I got home, Jake asked how my appointment went. I told him I got my tubes tied and that I was no longer on birth control. He completely lost it, started yelling about how I went behind his back and how I wasn't a real woman anymore. I just smiled and said, "Good thing my worth isn't determined by my reproductive organs." He's been sleeping in the guest room ever since, but honestly, I feel better than I have in years.